What is happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Coming at you with an upper body workout. I like to kick things off as usual with a flat bench. It's just my preference. You can see me doing a primer set there with 315 for a double. Then I back down and actually start my top sets with 295. I had 6 reps. That's a current PR of mine. I struggled with that for a long time before I could actually break through that plateau. The whole idea behind using primer sets is to basically wake up your nervous system to a point that is just way too efficient, and so your back downs feel super light. So you see me here on my second top set, okay, using 265 for about 9 reps. I wanted 10, but sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. So basically I do a primer set to wake up my nervous system so that my back downs feel light, and then I crush my top sets. So that's me doing incline dumbbell rows. This is the first time I'm trying out this variation. To be honest with you, by far the best back pump ever I had was doing this exercise. I did 2 sets of 20 reps, very high reps. There's this whole school of thought nowadays that high reps are not beneficial, but I actually feel like they have their place when programmed properly and when used properly. But back to the topic of primer sets, which is what I want to talk about today. Some people also call it neural sets, okay? Some others call it activation sets or post-activation potentiation. The whole idea is that you perform very low volume, near max effort singles usually around 85 to 95% of your actual 1 rep max. The goal is to wake up your central nervous system and make the heavier weights in your top sets, your main sets for the day, feel more manageable and comfortable, and at the same time give you a psychological boost. That way you are sure that, okay, since you've already handled heavier loads, your main sets won't even phase you at all. Now, when do you want to use primer sets? Essentially, when you're chasing maximal strength, doing a strength block, and you're focusing primarily on performance in your heavy top sets, that's a good point to implement primer sets. You would want to use them before like compound lifts, mainly the bench press, squat, deadlifts, things like that. And you don't want to use primer sets for like isolation exercises. You want to warm up though, but you don't need primer sets when you are performing isolation exercises. You just need a general warm up with lighter weight and build up to your top sets. Now, for those who want to understand the mechanism behind why primer sets are important and can actually be really helpful, is that 1, post-activation potentiation. So heavy singles help to improve motor unit recruitment. It helps to make subsequent sets feel much lighter in your hand as compared to if you just warmed up with lighter weight and went straight into your top sets, because there's neurological readiness. Your body, your nervous system is ready. High threshold, motor units are recruited after you have performed primer sets because your body is ready. And also, as I stated earlier on, the psychological effect, the confidence you build underneath the bar. So handling heavier weight basically before your working sets can make your planned sets feel much lighter in your hand. Now, another thing to note is that you don't particularly have to actually perform the eccentric part of the exercise. So for example, if you're doing a bench press, you don't need to particularly let the bar descend and press the weight all the way up. You can actually perform primer sets using like an isometric hold. So you load over 100% of your max. So for example, if your max is 275, you can load 315 on the bar, unrack the weight and hold it in position at the top for 10 seconds and then re-rack. Wait for 3 to 5 minutes and then perform your top sets. That's also an effective way to actually excite your central nervous system and get prepared for your top sets. A few key guidelines to follow to ensure your success performing primer sets is to make sure that 1, you keep the volume extremely low. You don't want to do more than 1 to 2 reps when you're performing primer sets. The next one is to ensure that after performing the primer set, you wait about 3 to 5 minutes before you start your working set. And again, you don't want to go doing primer sets when you are fatigued and when you're under recovered, or even when you're like doing a deload. You want to do that when you're fresh, and you want to also try to make sure that you perform primer sets as the first lift during your workout. It should be the first exercise. So if you are benching that day and you want to exert maximum performance, you make sure that it's your first exercise for the day. You perform the primer set, you do your top set, and then you can move on to the next exercise. So hypothetically, if your top set for the day is 5 reps at, let's say, 80% of your 1 rep max on the bench press, you start off by warming up as usual with the bar, 40% of your max, 60%, and then you can probably perform a primer set at like 90 to 92, 93% of your max, and then rest for 3 to 5 minutes. Then perform your 5 reps at 80%, and then you would notice that 5 reps at the 80% feels noticeably lighter, and the groove is much better, and performance is also more efficient. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Catch you guys at the next one. Peace.